All right. Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to the Center for Leadership, the podcast where leadership begins at the center, you. I am Karie and I believe in order to lead effectively, we must first learn to lead ourselves. And this segment is called Beyond the Title, where we have conversations to explore the raw, unscripted, behind the scenes stories of people discovering how to turn their passion into purpose. We'll share practices, insights, and tools to help you stay centered, resilient, and ready to empower those in your care. Leadership isn't just a role, it is a choice, and it starts with showing up for yourself. So let's dive in. So I am so excited to be joined today by Kofi.
Mm,
And we met at a networking
mhm.
event and
Yeah,
just connected and had some amazing conversations, found a lot of connection in the work that we do, kind of in our own paths. And just really, I don't know, I just felt a real energy and a connection when we first had that
yeah.
conversation. So I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pleasure, and likewise, we met that it's like when you meet someone that you just connect with, like just in person, and like you kind of
Yes.
see their background, like it's the same thing here, kind of seeing what you've done, and I saw a lot of alignment, and that's kind of outside of the networking context. Just wanted to connect with you, and yeah, I'm glad that you're having me on here.
Yeah, yeah. Always start, same question for everybody. What lights your fire?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, what lights my fire? I mean, I've spent a number of years trying to encapsulate that or trying to understand that even for myself. And we're as individuals, we're all evolving as well. But really for me, it's about helping people, individuals, organizations go from where they are now to where they want to be. And that sounds super broad, but for me, a large part of that comes with leveraging the tools and the resources that are available to us. And I find that, a lot of times when with people who I'm working with or people who are like just even I'm associated with, sometimes the main barrier is ourselves and what we understand um, we have access to, right? Both within ourselves, but then externally as well. But yeah, that's what lights my fire, kind of helping people navigate that and like come to terms with that and really like, channel all their energy and their passions in the right direction.
Yeah. So for those of you listening who know me personally, you're like, oh, yeah, I know why they're connected. I know exactly why these two have found similar energy because I too, like just for me, it's the skill building. It's like I want to, for me, one of my personal values is growth. And so I'm always looking for new skills and new growth to empower myself to be able to change and have more options and more things available to me. But then I want to make sure that I'm sharing that with other people, that I make sure that other people are aware of the things that are available to them, that they have the ability to change anything in their lives. They have the ability to be and to lead and to be empowered in all of those ways. And whether it's an organization that says, we want to change the way that we function, we want to change the way that we collaborate. But then they're like, they get stuck and they don't know how to do it. And so you and I kind of have that same passion where it's like, no, there's a way to do it. We can figure out how to move you from where you are to where you really want to be. And so I absolutely love that. So tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you find this purpose?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always been, looking back, right? Hindsight is 2020. Looking
Yeah.
back, it's always been something that I've really harnessed, right? I have a very storied. I say my path to where I am now has been full of seasons, right? Both from a physical location. I was born in Ghana, West Africa. I moved to Liberia, West Africa, when I was 5 with my parents. Then we moved to the U.S. in New Jersey, and then when I got older, I moved for places myself. Then I went to California, and now I'm in Texas, right? So just even that as an evolution for myself and discovering all the different contexts and the people in those different areas has helped me really realize what my purpose is and where I'm focused. So yeah, within each one of those seasons, as I call it, of my life, kind of interacting with different people in different cultures, organizations as well. Like a lot, I've worked in the past with a lot of really large organizations like Puma and Pfizer and Bayer and like those kind, but then also some really small, nimble companies. One of my clients now is a man and wife who have started a senior home care business, right? So like
Yeah.
huge difference between those
Yeah.
kinds.
Yeah.
But, just those experiences as I look at myself and what the things that I've gone through and I've navigated to, I try to bring that to my work. So just again, a lot of it has been um due to a lot of the travel and the places that I've physically been and the people that I've physically interacted with. And then obviously that's kind of helped me realize where I like to spend a lot of my time and what I really enjoy.
Mm. I love that. I love how you talk about your experiences and the places that you've been and the cultures in which you've lived in, worked in,
Mhm.
been exposed to. Because I think for me too, it's like experiences, share both individual experience and sharing those experiences really is what unlocks the world, right? Like it just is, there's so much to be learned by understanding different experiences and where people are. And as you have moved through, because I can imagine going from, you said West Africa,
Yeah, West Africa.
West
Yeah, Ghana.
Africa
Yeah, uh-huh.
to Texas is probably a
Yeah,
little different, right? Like
slightly, just slightly.
slightly different. And
Just the
even
weather,
go
that's all. That's all.
just
Yeah.
and even going from working in large organizations to the
Mhm.
mom and pop shops. Like,
Mhm.
so through all of that exposure and that experiences, where have you found the kind of the common theme? What are some
Yeah.
things that connect people in that way?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, which is experiences, right?
Yeah.
When I was much younger and very ambitious and kind of wanted to change the world, I found that I would always get frustrated when I was interacting with, or I was working with a organization that had potential, but they couldn't get out of their own way. And I'd always kind of, pressured them to kind of, like, no, this is, just again, logically, this is what you need to
Yes.
do. All you have to do is X, Y, and Z. Um, as I grew and I learned from my failures, in certain cases and my successes in other cases, I realized that experience, an individual's experience, even in the organization, right? Whether they just mom and pop or a large organization, that individual's experience about how they've gotten to where they are really plays a part in their decision making and how open they are to new things, how closed off they are to new things, what they're willing to try and such. So, for me, harnessing and focusing on those experiences. So yeah, the
Hmm.
solutions, whatever we're trying to solve for, it's gonna happen, right? Like it
Yeah.
might take longer, it might take shorter, whatever. But really, understanding the individual experiences, like, okay, what are you trying to do with your company or your initiative or your nonprofit or whatever? How does that factor into how easily you could move and how easily you could change? But then also on the flip side, the experience of who you're trying to affect as well, which,
Mhm.
like, so again, it's like that key of my experience. All my experiences have led me to understand that experience and context really matters. And the
Yes.
more we harness some of those in our conversations about change, especially both on the individual side but in organization side, the faster or the less painful it is. Let's just say
Yes.
for all sides. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When I think about when helping organizations through change, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we all know it's going to happen, right? That
Mm.
we've lived on this earth long enough to know that change is going to happen. There's things that they're out of our control that are going to happen. But it doesn't make it easy, right? And there's always, I think, for me when I'm working with organizations and and there's a resistance to change. There's a fear, right? There's a fear of losing something, or there's a fear of not being able to see the big picture. And I think for as I've worked with groups too, there's we have a lot of different personalities. People need different things in order to feel comfortable change. We have those who really need to understand the data, right? Need to maybe need a little bit more time to process and to be grounded and to kind of just walk the steps. We have people, who just want to understand that everyone is going to be taken care of, that there's kind of that collaborative and that we're thinking about all those perspectives. We have those that are like, I can see the big vision and they just want to get there right now. And we have people that are very task oriented, right? And I want to know what I have to do. What does this mean for me? What am I going to have to work through? And I think there's a power in bringing all of those people together because the experiences and what they need, they can complement and help one another kind of move through that. And I've used personality a lot in helping people move through change and helping people have those conversations, but then also understanding what do you need, like what do you need to help you move through this, what's missing for you, that we can talk about that's going to help you through this transition of change. And a question that I ask a lot is, what are the unintended consequences of not changing,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because nobody
And
nobody also wants to be behind or stuck or
right.
irrelevant.
Yeah, and sometimes people articulate that they they want the change and everything like that, but internally they haven't really, like you said, they it's about what they're losing, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes it's identity. I mean, we could go
yeah,
all day.
yeah,
The human psyche, right?
yeah,
Um, even in organizations, and you know where it gets even more complicated with what I do, with brands and companies, is that a lot of the times my role is focused around, or at least the solution that I bring is focused around, how do you leverage technology
yeah,
to do to facilitate that change. Years ago, and I've been in this for quite a while. I remember when mobile technology became a thing, right? And I was working with a fashion brand in New Jersey, and they were large. They had tons of retail stores, and they were doing really well. Women's clothing, doing really well. They would like knocking out of the box. But of course, the internet and mobile and all that kind of stuff came along, and so they brought me in as at that time I was like the digital guy. There was like not
yes,
even no
yes.
distinction. It was like the guy who knows the internet kind of thing.
Ooh, he's
And
so fancy. He's a wizard.
yeah, he's like, whoa, he knows how to turn the computer on. But and of course, again, came in there like overzealous, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna purchase this. We're gonna set up this. We're gonna get you a website, X, Y, and Z. And a lot of older people, and even their demographic was older too. So that was even,
Yeah,
kind of double whammy, and met a lot of resistance. I was working directly with the owners and the executive team, and met a lot of resistance because they wanted the benefit of the reach of the web and mobile and the internet, but they were comfortable in retail, traditional retail, and the face-to-face interactions and everything like that. So we clashed a lot, right?
yeah, yeah,
Until I realized that it wasn't that they didn't want the solution. It's just that they didn't understand how, first of all, how it worked, but then what does that mean for their identity, both as
yes,
individuals, but then the brand itself, right? The brand was built around this interaction and really understanding women, specifically women going into the workforce and working women, so like
yeah,
understanding what they need and kind of supporting them, X, Y, and Z, but they kind of didn't see where this new technology fit in. So once we sat down, we decided to take a step back and say, okay, let's go back to the focus of where there's the brand is called Dress Barn. I don't even know if I don't think they're around anymore. But it was Dress Barn, two brands. One was Dress Barn, which is for older women, and then one for Maurice's, which is for younger teens and such. But anyway, let's go back to, like, what is the ethos of the brand and what are you trying to do? What are the how you're trying to affect your customers' lifestyle? Like, going back to those things, of course, they knew. I mean, they have a lot more information about that than I did. And then once we understood that, I said, okay, so if that's the case, let's look at the lifestyles of our customers, right? And with technology and the web, so where does that fit in their lifestyle? And then, okay, so now how do we translate that to the brand so that the brand is available in that context? So
Mhm.
if they're not in the store and they going online and they're trying to see if a new dress came out, or or a new design was released, how does the brand give them just that in that context, maintaining the experience and the interact the 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 relationship that that customer already had with the brand? How does the brand show up within that context and authentically? And then that's it, right? Like, let's not try
Yeah.
to do everything when within that one. And once internally and externally we're able to bring that out, we it was much better internally, getting things approved and getting initiatives rolled out, because it wasn't really challenging the whole brand. They saw where it fit in. But then on the customer side as well, we saw a huge uptick, because we weren't trying to force all the really what they want to do. We weren't trying to force them to now go back to the store to get to pick up everything. It's like,
Yes.
okay, we're going to meet
Yes.
you here, we're going to give you as much as we can there based on our resources. And so that was really, really successful. And that was one of the main when as I started bringing the technology to mom and pops and enterprise. That was one of the main my experience that I go back to a lot. Like, okay, let's talk about what needs to be done and how, and what's the experience that needs to be created, both for the brand and for their constituents or their patients in healthcare. But then, okay, now how can technology be used to amplify, support, augment that? And that's all. Since then, that's really been how I approach the projects that I work with and the
Yes.
people that I work with, because technology changes has gone from, I've seen so many things come and go, right?
Right.
And they've all had some kind of impact, but when used properly, it could be seamless.
Yeah.
And that's all about experience.
I want to just applaud. Like so so many things that you said in there were like, yes. I mean,
Hmm.
one, go slow to go fast, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
like let's back it up. Let's make sure we
Hmm.
get our context. Let's really think about the experience from all angles and how we really
Hmm.
want to picture this. And then you asking the questions, right?
Hmm.
Asking the questions to the group, for have them to talk through that, to think about the different scenarios. You've included them in the process of change,
Hmm.
right? And that when people have an opportunity to talk through, to look from different perspectives, to think about what might be possible, and they had a voice in that, the buy-in for change just it increases, right?
Hmm.
And let's be honest, like we've all been through some sort of change that was forced upon us, no voice, and
Hmm.
whether it was good for us or not, it didn't
Yeah.
go well.
No, 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 at
You know?
all. And that's where you see the most resistance. Um, and as technology has accelerated and it like newer, and that, like, now we have AI, which is like making everybody's head explode, even mine. Um, Going back to that resistance, I'm seeing a lot more of that resistance in organizations now. Before it was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, the people who worked in the organization versus the leaders, they were generally simpatico, and they're a little bit more aligned. But now, as more companies, even mom and pops, as they're
Yeah.
starting to adapt more technology like AI or even mobile or social, there sometimes that's at odds with the people who work in the company, right? People kind of on the front lines, and that becomes, a point of resistance. So if I was working with a company that's focused in waste management, so
Hmm.
construction and
Hmm.
getting rid of waste on construction sites and such. And the same thing is a family business, been around for a long time, so it's like the third generation, and
Yeah.
each generation comes in like, we're gonna change everything around, and then their parents are like, no, you're not, leave it alone, So there's that. But kind of gone through that phase, and they were now at the phase of some kind of growth, a little bit more growth with adding new technologies, automating things and such. And they also were struggling with, okay, so waste management construction is like really standard, like that's not the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
advanced
Right.
industry, right? So
Right.
like, how do we take these really hands-on, face-to-face, relationship build people, both on the in the business and in the industry, how do we take that and then, automate some of that, but then but really give them a voice in what gets automated, right?
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like, I mean, and we did something as simple as sending out a questionnaire. What do you not like doing in your job? Right?
I was just
Like,
gonna say that, like, oh,
like, whoa, yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's mind blowing to me sometimes when I work with other organizations, like, no, they just don't want to change. We have to automate and we have to do this AI. And I'm like, have you asked someone
yeah,
like I mean, they're going to resist,
yeah,
but have you asked them what they actually will want to either automate or, use technology for? Ask them. They might actually have even better ideas. The frontline people, we might have even better ideas of what you could do. So, and it makes it that much easier. But again, it's
yeah,
it's it's about not assuming, going back to the experience, it's not assuming that your experience as a leader in of your organization is the same experience that someone on the front line has,
yes,
right?
yes,
And just having that conversation. Like, it's really
yes,
that simple. Send out a
yes.
questionnaire. Like, on
I
paper if you need to.
I love that because I mean thinking about again that I when I am facilitating and working with groups, I want all voices at the table. So even if they're not in the planning session, there has to be something that we gained knowledge from them that they can help inform the decisions that are being made. I think that's so important, just as you said. Like when we talk to frontline workers about something that needs to change, I mean, imagine I right out of college, I worked in a factory for a couple of years
Oh,
because
wow.
it was the best place. It had the best benefits, had the highest
Oh,
pay. I was a
yeah.
young mom. I was like, this, I have to do this, right? And so I've worked in factory. I've worked in a lot of different settings,
Hmm.
and thinking about what that would have meant to have somebody come to me and say,
Hmm.
look, what are the worst parts of your job? Like what
Hmm.
slows you down? What are things that we could do to make this seamless and
Hmm.
be able to say, here, if you could take this from me, I
Hmm.
could actually take on something else, right? Like I could
Hmm.
actually, I have a passion to work with this. And if this was off my plate, I could expand my skill set into doing other things and just kind of custom kind of creating that
Yeah.
job and having technology take some of that that no longer maybe is relevant or is worth my time. I love that you're encouraging people and having those conversations to really get that whole perspective of what really it can look like.
Yeah.
Again, if I'm part of that and I can see if I can see the bigger picture and I can see the opportunities that it's going to offer me,
Hmm.
because we're all in this for ourselves. Like
Yeah.
you can be in
The
you can
days
be work.
of my work or my company is my family
Yeah,
has
no,
long passed, and
that's
everybody
gone.
understands it's not.
That's gone.
You have your
Yeah,
actual family, so
yeah.
your
And
family
well,
is your actual family.
and I think that's interesting too because back when our parents
Hmm.
were getting a job, you got a job
Hmm.
for a job and you spent your life working in that organization or that job. Like
Hmm.
it was part of your identity. And I think as we're moving through the generations,
Hmm.
people aren't looking for an identity in a job,
No,
right? They're looking
no.
for a passion, for something that's going to inspire them to do better and to do more. So we're not filling the same jobs with the same people. So the jobs
Yeah.
have to change.
Exactly, exactly. And sometimes too, it's also when you ask them, I remember so I worked with marketing agency, large marketing agency, and even we were responsible for, consulting our clients and kind of helping them grow and scale in domestically and globally, and even we had to learn, right? So I
Yeah.
became the digital guy who knows where things are going, right? So, and again, and part of that is I love that space, right?
Yeah.
So what we came through, put together a kind of learning program, kind of upskilling program for the individual roles. And where we started off is with that survey. Okay, and in this case it was specifically for more like social media, like that kind of stuff, web obviously. And the survey results that came back were surprising in the sense that it was about, I don't want to do more work. You're like,
Mm.
if you're telling me that I have to, like, from designers, for instance, you're telling me I have to design something and then I have to design it for all these different platforms, for prints, for digital, for TV, X, Y, and Z. Now I have to do it for social. and it was anonymous, obviously, so people could speak their mind. um, One of the main data points that came out of that was people saw the initiative around social media as more work, and they didn't want to do
Yeah.
more work.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that they were resistant to technology or they didn't understand it. They were like, okay, I'm already doing all these other 15 things, and it sounds like you're giving me
More.
thing number
Yep.
16, 17, 18. So
Yep.
we, part with the leadership team, we had to kind of say, we had to change the messaging around that. Like, so how are we talking about these things? Again, how are we kind of bringing people in to choose, what they're going to keep, what they're going to take on new, some of and there were things that they were doing that they didn't want to do. So it's like, if you're doing 10 things, what are the five things that you would want to do? Let's get rid of the other five. And then maybe now you have another five that are in this new area, right? And maybe you hire somebody else for the other one, so like this. So it's kind of that negotiation, um, that, to your point, gives people a voice in
Mhm.
the changes that are happening, even if they're on the front lines. And obviously, if it's a small organization and you're only at about 5, 6 people, it's probably easier. You could kind of just sit at a room and shout
Yeah.
at each other across the table. But
Fight it out.
yeah, sometimes it's about, I don't want something. I get it. I realize this is a thing we need to do, but I don't want to do anything new.
Yeah.
Tell me why. What's in
Tell
it
me
for me?
why. What's in it for me?
What am I gonna gain from this? And sometimes that what you're gonna gain is what you're gonna lose, in the sense that you don't have to do these other things, and you only gonna do this other thing, which might be even more exciting for you, as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna switch gears here for a
Hmm.
little bit if that's okay.
Of course.
I want to know uh who in your life has really been that inspirational person for you?
Mm.
Who helped coffee get to where you are today?
Oh, okay. So there are three people, specifically. So, um as I mentioned, I moved from, we moved a lot, right, when we were younger, like our whole family. And so that level of, exploration, going into new environments, figuring things out as you get there, like that definitely came from my father, because he is the one who made the decision to move from Ghana, because he was an engineer, moved from Ghana to Liberia because he was going there to help them start up the TV, broadcasting. So he was in, broadcasting, start up their TV station and set up stuff. Right, he went from there, coming to the U.S. to kind of do the same thing, and he worked. So, and throughout, he passed away some years ago, but throughout his life, he was always, everybody said, Grandpa's always got something new that he's starting. And so, like, that level of exploration and building new things and trying out new things, seeing if they work, definitely comes from him. On the other side is my mother, who's very diplomatic, right?
Mm.
She's the person who, um, in any kind of chaos, right, will say, okay, let's talk, let's hear how do you feel? So like that, even I have to go back to like
Yeah.
the surveys and all that. Like, I definitely get that from her. Okay, so let's take a step back. What I'm proposing might not necessarily be the answer. Let's negotiate. Let's talk through. She comes through there. And then the third person was a woman named Audrey Smaltz, who I worked with for a number of years. She used to be a fashion designer fashion, model years ago. I think she's maybe in her 80s now. Um, and she was a fashion model who was hanging around with all the Ralph Lauren's and whatever, in her
Mhm.
experience. And she saw a gap in the sense that, they didn't have, essentially on-demand help for their, like when they were doing, New York Fashion Week and such, right? And she essentially came up with the idea of his company, and she started that company. So that's when I was working with her, it was in that context. But beyond the business model itself, what I learned from her is, um, I'll try not to curse, but she said she said
You
one thing
can.
that
It's good.
really stuck out, and and after that I saw it, and she said this, there was a situation, and she said, you young people don't know when to shut the up,
Yeah.
right? And at first, of course, we're like, oh, what do you? And because there was something somebody had said in front of the clients, something, and we're like, oh my gosh, why are you, she said it harshly, but then she, went through it. And after a while, I kind of took that. I was like, what does that mean? And I was definitely one of those people. as you can tell, I talk a lot, right? And I was, especially at that time, I would give you my opinion, like I
Yeah.
would talk for days and give you my perspective. And what I learned from her through the years that I worked with her within that context was shutting up, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't always, your perspective and your point of view and your opinion is not always the main one. And sometimes shutting up and listening helps you even convince somebody of what you're trying to convince them
Mm,
to,
yes.
or even getting the perspective about their experience.
Hmm.
Or so that listening part I learned from her. I Yeah, because like for me, like personally, I used to definitely talk a lot. I mean, I still, listen, I'm recovering, but yes.
Recovering.
But yeah, those three people I would say really had a huge impact as I've over the years, both in my personal and my in my business, and how I work with my clients as well.
Yeah, I really love the example of shutting up because I that's very similar in my story. I mean, I always dreamed of having a talk show, so here we are. Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to
And now
talk
you
for a
do as
living.
well. The
Yeah, right.
podcast is a new version.
They didn't have a booth at the career fair in high school. Where do I get to talk for a living? Where's that at? So I made it happen. But to that, like that was such a good point about, and I've learned that too, both with my own experience and in the things that we teach in our courses as well, is that when you're silent and you're inviting in a perspective or you're inviting in an opinion and creating that space for someone to share, just as you said, it then kind of opens the door then for then you to share back and to share that perspective. But it's really about creating this space where people can authentically participate, but then also actively listen and not listen to respond or to, to debate, but listen to understand and to be able to say, wow, like I didn't have that same experience, or I've never looked at it from that aspect before, or that lens through that lens before. So what does that, what does that really mean? Because that's really what, again, like unlocks a world of innovation and creativity. Because the more information, the more perspective we can get, the more that we can think of things that are different than what's in my own head, what's in my own story.
Mhm.
So I love
And
that.
yeah, and even one of the ways that I bring that to my work is, when I work with clients, especially kind of smaller companies that are scaling, um, we always start with listening.
Yeah.
Like, okay, even if you've again, I had a client who's a nurse and she's going into senior care, and she's worked with seniors before, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know this space, just let's just get on with it. I'm like, well, let's let's listen, right? Let's listen
Yeah.
to what senior, because your individual experience with seniors in Dallas might not necessarily translate with other seniors in other areas, and kind of what they actually want from a business like yours. And it's painful sometimes with when you have companies that are ready to grow and ready to scale and get customers, because they want to get to that part. And
Yeah.
I always tell them, like, you have to your what you said before, you have to slow down to move fast.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we do that at scale and faster is using technology, right? So,
Yeah.
going on social media, literally reading. Well, now we don't have to. I used to actually read all the threads, but
Yeah. Right.
now I have an automation that just, I just kind of tell it what to look, the kinds of conversations to look for and what to look for, and it goes out just like a, personalized Google search. So for her, it's just going pinpointing where conversations about around seniors are happening in the context, and then it just goes out and searches those conversations that are publicly available, so not anything in closed forms or anything, and then it brings back that data, and you know gets rid of all the ones that don't matter. And then now we've listened, but we've used technology to listen at scale. So now, for her, it ended up being, oh, they don't just want someone to take care of their older, failing, family members. Um, uh, 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 senior that has their health failing, they want someone to be a companion. They want someone who knows the geographically knows the all the hot spots that they used to go to as they're younger. So let's focus on that versus the we care, the standard, we care for you and we're going to make sure your mother doesn't fall down the stairs,
Yeah.
sure, but through that exercise, we're able to understand that it's not just about making sure that the health doesn't fail. It's about giving them a
Mm.
lifestyle and supporting their lifestyle. So as we change that perspective, even for her, coming from a nurse, she was always about fixing. It's like, no,
Yes.
well, now it's about nurturing, right?
Yes.
So again, quickly, I mean, that took like a day, right? Like we just
Yeah.
technology just did it, got it back. We went through it, we talked about it, and she's like, "Oh, okay, cool. Okay, now we're gonna do that."
Nice.
So again, that's a perfect example of how you can still listen, but
Hmm.
then use the resources that you have to understand those perspectives for the people that you're trying to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. And before I ask the next question, I just want to pause and give honor to your parents as well, as you talked about them. I see both of them also showing up in you and how you just navigate the world and have conversations in the work that you do. So so awesome. Opposites attract, when you can bring
Hmm.
together both that balance, and that's so amazing. Such a beautiful story.
Thank you.
So what I know I have a question too that I want to ask you, and that is, what do you do when you just feel like everything's out of control, right? Being overwhelmed, things coming at you. What do you do? How do you handle that?
So I have the active way of handling it and the passive. The
Yeah.
passive way is, and my wife gets, she's like, I know you're stressed out when you sleep. I
Yeah.
sleep. Oh
Mm,
yeah.
me too.
I'm a habitual. I can I can literally be standing when I used to live in New York, and I used to take the New York. I can literally be standing in the train and take a quick nap, standing in the corner, right? So so that's a gift. But yeah,
Yes.
it helps. For me, it shuts off because my mind is always going, right? So, that's kind of I guess, the passive way of shutting down and realigning. Um, as far as active, I would say that, I read but I curate and I read. So just throughout my
Mm,
day to day, I'm always um gathering information. On One of my bad habits is I have tons and I mean thousands of I have a database here that I use in Notion, which is software, and I have maybe 5, 6 thousand uh stories, posts, things. I just save stuff, right? As I read
hmm
stuff, I save it. I read stuff, I save it. I even have some of that automated, but separate issue. But anyway, but yeah, to as far as like if I need to regroup and stuff, a large part of that is the systems that I have around that. So I'm already gathering all the information. So then I'm like, okay, if I actually have to solve a problem or and it's something I'm struggling with, what do I have that's a reference material that I could either read again? It could be a book, it could be a
Yeah.
passage, it could be, just read again to reorient myself about, okay, what am I supposed to be focusing on?
Mm,
So for me, I've over the years I've created a process of curating tons and tons and tons of information, some of which I give to others for if I see that they need those kind of perspectives, even my clients. But then yeah, for me, I reference that as well because you can't
yeah.
always search Google and like, so I just curate all my own resources and then I just, yeah, so that's from an active perspective, that's what I do. I kind of just review those things, things that I found interesting that inspired me in different ways and that helps reorient me if I'm not sleeping.
Right. I'm a sleeper too. Like I
All
can
right.
just
Oh yeah.
disconnect
Oh
and
yeah.
just there's
Yeah.
nothing more refreshing than it doesn't have to be a long time. Like I said,
Yeah.
like I can just go take a 20-minute, like 10-minute. Okay, I'm ready to go. Like cleared my mind, ready to kind of refocus. So I love that. And I'm not surprised that you have a system
Oh
on the
yeah.
active side of things, right? To be like there's this I know. And for me, one other thing that I use is music. Like I have a
Mm.
playlist for every mood that I'm in, and I have a
Hmm.
playlist for every mood
Really?
I have to get out of. Like I got to move from this to this.
Uh-huh. Really? It's, it's like theme music for
It
every
is.
transition. Really
Yes.
nice,
Yes.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I gotta
So,
try that.
yeah,
I usually
it's
have
good.
music like generally in the background, but I've never really purposefully chosen music as a gateway to in and out of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta try that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. For me, like when I'm traveling and in the mornings
Hmm.
before, if I have to get up early, I have a class that I'm training. There's certain playlists that I'll play in the shower and
Hmm.
as I'm getting ready, right? It's kind of that
Hmm.
pump up music, that walkout music that you got to listen
Hmm.
to. But then, the other day, like I was just kind of feeling really down and it wasn't necessarily anything that had happened, but it was just like, man, you got to shake this. And I have a I Am Woman playlist, like just a
Oh,
really
okay. Yeah.
empowering, music, put some Lizzo on, got some other
Oh,
stuff going on, and
oh, yes. That is her. That is my wife listens to that a lot too. So
yeah.
that is I could see that. Yeah. Lizzo does it.
So yeah, she does it. She does it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I got a whole playlist, little Shania Twain in there. I mean, it's mixed.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Hmm.
a large genre of music, but these are empowering women, and their music is gonna pull me up, get
Yeah.
me going.
I
So love that, love that.
love that.
So we just any parting words for us? Our time's gone by so fast, but
Yeah, I
what
know.
is just kind of a parting um, piece of advice or a nugget of information you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say that going back to experience, um, in hitting a barrier or making a change in your life or trying to get through something, your experience counts, right? And we've talked about it a lot here. You know, where you're coming from plays a large part in how you see a situation and how you can move forward. And sometimes that is the answer, right?
Yeah,
Your experience might be stopping you, or your experience might be the answer to move you forward. And I would add that to the use of the technology, right? Technology helps, but only if you understand yourself and your experience, right?
mm,
Technology makes it faster. So don't
yeah,
just jump to the solution and the technology or whatever. Start with your experience. Once you understand that, then you can use the technology to do it better, faster, easier, with less people, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that's and I think that factors in a number of different situations.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing. And I'm gonna put some information and links in the description here. So if people
Mhm.
want to follow you or get in contact with you, it will all be there. But thank
Yeah.
you. This is an
Thank you,
honor, and I
Karie.
look forward to many more conversations.
Indeed. Thank you for having me.
You bet.